The Soul's Silent Call. This was a title, a working title that came to me as I was putting together my talk for this morning. And yet, as I continued to hold it and mold it over this past week, I chose to rename it this morning, Out of the Blue. Out of the Blue. Both the Soul's Silent Call and Out of the Blue are both referring to guidance, that inner guidance, that guidance that we all have within us. And guidance only matters if we're willing to trust it and go where it leads us. The theologian Paul Tillich said, the first duty of love is to listen. The first duty of love is to listen. Love is always listening to us and for us. I'm going to repeat that. Love is always listening to us and for us. Now, we might think of divine guidance. We may think or speak of this as some mystical, magical, out of the body, rare occurrence, being divinely guided. But if we look at our Release and Renew Lenten booklet, mine's a little chewed up. I've been carrying it with me in my travels. We see that for today, Reverend Kathy Beasley, who is a Science of Mind minister, has this to say: guidance is one of those things we can all use at some point in our journey. The question is whether we choose to use it or to proceed without it. She also says, when we choose to lean into love enough to hear the voices, prayers, stories, or lyrics of the world, it changes us for the better and for good. When we choose to lean into love, for that is truly what that inner guidance is all about. It's leaning into love and letting the love of our being guide us in what to say or do, what to speak, how to act, how to react, how to take action. Many might like to think of that divine guidance as coming out of the blue. You've heard that phrase before, out of the blue, meaning it just appeared. It was unexpected. It came from nowhere without warning. Well, Megan McDonough, who's a very talented New Thought musician, who was here at Unity of the Keys about this time, about 3 years ago, just released a new song, and it's called Out of the Blue. And this morning, I'm going to attempt to share it with you.
Of all the many names for God, and there are quite a few, some as old as time itself, and some seem rather new. I've got a favorite, and maybe you do too. Mine is Out of the Blue. Out of the blue, out of the blue, it all worked out and everything came through. Songs were sung and deals were done, and the time, well, it just flew, and it all came from out of the blue. At times I feel so full of doubt and don't know where I fit. tired and my mind keeps saying might be time to quit. Then just when I get quiet, 'cause that something tells me to, hope comes from out of the blue, out of the blue, out of the blue. Twice, first in thought and then in form. You have been creating from the moment you were born. Out of the blue, out of the blue. Whether or not you believe it's true, just your being here is the biggest clue that you came from out of the blue. Yeah, we all came from out of the blue.
Oh, she so beautifully put into words what I was feeling the entire time this week that I was holding this talk for today in my heart. She just so beautifully put that together that I just had to share it. She starts the song out by saying, of all the many names for God, and there are quite a few, some as old as time itself, some seem rather new. I've got a favorite, and maybe you do too. Mine is out of the blue. That is the very essence of God, that God is everywhere present. And we say that, we believe that as our second unity principle. We affirm that every week in our statement of being. There's only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good omnipotent, one presence, one power, everywhere, everywhere, everywhere outside of us and within us. Our divine guidance, our internal, eternal wisdom and love is always present. It's always present in the wings, waiting for an invitation to speak to us, to nudge us, to guide us. And when we dedicate ourselves to segments of time in the silence and gently listening in our inner room, our innermost self, that is the invitation to allow Spirit to guide us, paving the way, the avenue to be divinely guided. It is then up to us to decide to take action, to listen, and to move forward with faith. So what keeps those voices, the voice of the divine, those nudges, those heart and love urges down and quiet? Our beliefs that we have layered upon them, keeping them at bay, weighing them down beneath the false ideas we have about ourselves and others, ideas that keep us in fear. These ideas, these beliefs about ourselves may be words that we have heard spoken to us, or maybe even just within our hearing range since we were very little. Girls can't do that. Boys are supposed to be rough and tumble. It's a good thing you're pretty or cute because you're not very smart. He's not a strong child. She doesn't have an ounce of common sense. his or her sister got all the brains. Girls aren't good at math. Boys don't wear pink. I hope she gets rid of that baby fat, and on and on. Messages that we may have heard since we were very small children, and additional messages that we have heard as adults that we have accepted and adopted as our own. We've all heard them, and we've probably heard ourselves think them, if not speak them. For stereotypes begin at a very early age. Myths and assumptions can form our opinions and judgments about those around us and about ourselves. We all have those false beliefs about ourselves. I'm not musical. I'm not talented. I'm not creative. I can't sing. I can't dance. I can't paint. I'm not smart. I'm not thoughtful. I'm not lovable. I'm not funny. I'm not thin enough, rich enough, anything enough. Those are very damaging to our psyche and to our emotional selves. And those I am not statements or I can't statements can become over time I am statements, which are even more powerful and potentially damaging. I am limited. I am dumb. I am less than everyone else in some way, less educated, less bright, less handsome, less successful, less talented, less attractive, less. Those negative I am statements become like a thick, wet blanket layered on top of our emotional being. And those error, false beliefs we have about ourselves have the power to block our good if we let them, block our guidance, hold us back from saying or doing things which our heart so yearns to say or to do. For all divine guidance comes from the space of love, all of it. We are never divinely guided to smack someone or to strike someone physically or with our words. That is always the work of the ego. We are never divinely guided to attack anything or anyone. Inner guidance, guidance from spirit, always comes from love. And we call upon that inner spiritual qualities of strength and will and wisdom to move us forward in doing what is ours to do from that very essence of love. These are not rare occurrences. These are not unusual. This morning, you most certainly already responded to the inner guidance of love. You're here, either in person or through the ethers. You're here. You wanted to gift yourself with this experience. Perhaps you made yourself a healthy breakfast, another loving gift to yourself. If you drove to church on the way here, you waved or you smiled at someone, you yielded in traffic, you accommodated someone else. You felt gratitude for finding a really great place to park. And that uplifted your spirits, perhaps made you feel lucky and blessed and more willing to be open to others. You arrived here at church filled with a loving spirit, open, curious about the day, simply happy to gather. Maybe Nancy or Janet approached you about volunteering this morning or sometime in the future, and you lovingly agreed because you feel valued, seen, and loved, not less than. You allowed love to answer. Let love respond. Perhaps that is what brings us together on Sunday mornings, physically or from afar. We lean into love. And when we lean into love, it changes us for the better. Always. We lean into love, and those negative statements from our younger years or from our recent years are silenced. They are minimized. They are proven wrong. We turn this morning in the Christian scriptures to the book of James. It's a letter. It's actually a sermon that's written in the form of a letter. And the book of James is an unknown author, but the author was familiar with the Sermon of the Mount found in Matthew, and he was also, he or she was also familiar with letters of Peter. So it was written around the end of the first century. And I'm sharing this morning, the first chapter, the 5th verse. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all men generously and without reproaching, and it will be given to him. If any of you lack wisdom, ask God, who gives all generously and without judgment, and it will be given to you. Of course, we're not talking about asking something or someone outside of ourselves, but our inner wisdom, our inner consciousness of the Christ, the divine. Seek and you will find, ask and it shall be given unto you, because it is all within us and within our connection with universal mind and with all of life. Now, sometimes it's obvious when we respond and act upon divine guidance. I've seen this in my own life, and I'm always surprised when it happens. Because I'm one of those individuals who grew up with a false belief that I am not creative. Perhaps you grew up with that same belief. My sister Sue was a creative, imaginative, talented one. And even my older sister did crafty things, did crafts. And that is how I saw them. And in doing so, I restricted myself. I affirmed for myself over the years, I am not creative. And I recall sharing that belief years ago in a small breakout group from a class I was taking at my former home church. And someone in that group questioned me, challenged me. They said, what about those meditations that you lead on Sunday? Do you read and memorize them from someone else? I said, no, I meditate and then I see what comes up. That is the very definition of being creative. Turning inward in the quiet and then allowing ideas to flow, seemingly out of the blue. I'm always surprised and delighted and surprised when my mind opens to something new. The 40 days of giveaways that we're involved in right now just seem to flow from me for our Lenten season this year. And I know that the seeds were planted by the comment cards from you, from our annual membership meeting, when we sat in the space of how to be more Christ-like in our community, how to express more love in our community. And we were all involved in that process. And because we wrote our ideas on little index cards and they were anonymous, we felt totally free to express from that space of love and to just jot down some ideas. And I have read through those several times, those suggestions, and then I let them settle, kind of percolate and simmer. And what came from that was this idea for us for this Lenten season, that we would not only let go of ideas that no longer served us, but let go of physical things that we no longer needed or wanted or used, and allowed those things to bless other people, to bless people outside of our church community, at the community at large. For most of the comments that came were general in nature, and they didn't give us a blueprint of how to accomplish the goal. And that gave us the freedom, in a sense, to allow those out of the blue ideas to come forth, and then to evaluate what might work and what might work for us, how we can practice Christ in action all 40 days of Lent, releasing 40 things. For each one of us are living, breathing human suits of creativity. Each one of us yearns to express the love of our nature. And we see this when we gift another. How many times have you given a gift to someone and you could hardly wait? You could hardly contain yourself waiting for them to open and delight in the gift that you had chosen. They felt blessed to receive, and you felt so incredibly blessed in the giving, for it's in our nature to be giving. And sometimes it is enough to do the giving and to not be tied to the end result. Just like in this 40 days of giveaways, we're not going to see the end result of who receives all the wonderful things that we are releasing. That's the concept behind the Kindness Rocks project. We create the rocks and we leave them behind to bless whoever finds them. And most likely, we will never know who that someone is that is blessed by that gift. But it is more than enough in the creating and in the sharing of the gift. And that occurs when we feel confidence in ourselves. We feel capable, creative, imaginative, loved, and accepted. Out of the blue, ideas just flow easily from us. And our feelings of self-worth allow us to act upon them, whatever they might be, big or small. What error thoughts might you carry within yourself about yourself, weighing yourself down, weighing down those ideas, those love ideas which so want to flow from you? Let's call them false belief blankets, because they're heavy and they're sodden and they're weighted, and they weigh us down truly. And those concepts that flow from the heart are light and airy. They float. They lift us up. We can feel the difference. What is heavy on your heart and what frees your soul? What burdens your heart and what makes you smile? Love is always listening to us and for us, yearning to be expressed as us, as you. Be willing to listen with your whole being and know that you are always divinely guided in every moment. Your soul wants to shine its light ever brightly, ever freely. I hold that for you. Being divinely guided, seeing divine ideas arise from you out of the blue, and seeing you delight in each one and acting upon it with confidence, with love, with wisdom, with great strength, and with will. And so it is. God bless you.